Hey, HorseCenter fans, Matt and I are back with another edition of the Big Show. We're talking Florida Derby Dubai World Cup, Matt.
Derby and Dubai, so much going on here. The first a big 100-point race in the Florida Derby and lots of money overseas.
That's right, Matt. 5 weeks from the Kentucky Derby, just days from the Dubai World Cup. Check it out all now here on HorseCenter. Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the outstanding pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm good, Brian. I'm very happy to be doing the show with you again this week.
Same here, Matt. I appreciate that. And you know what? We're a little over 5 weeks from the Kentucky Derby, so that's what we're going to lead this show with. There's a big prep down in South Florida on Saturday, Matt. I think you've been handicapping it diligently, and we'll have a lot of things to say about this year's edition of the Florida Derby. 9 furlongs. I think it's the 14th race. It's a big card down there at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, Matt. Hidden Scroll and Code of Honor are your two favorites, Matt. Did the morning line guy get it right in calling Hidden Scroll the 5-2 morning line favorite?
Brian, I thought about it a good bit. I guess he got it right because Hidden Scroll was a big favorite in the Fountain of Youth, and fans seem attracted to him. I don't know. He could be the favorite. I don't know if he deserves to be the favorite, but he could go off the favorite.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I do think he will be favored. I don't think it's an obvious. I don't think he'll be a heavy favorite. Certainly, like last time, folks. If you remember, in the Fountain of Youth, Hidden Scroll was the pretty clear favorite off of one race. It was a 14-length demolition of a maiden field. So he was in that Fountain of Youth. He ran too fast early. Let's just say it like it is, Matt. He ran too fast early, and he faded a bit. He was fourth. He was beaten only about 3 lengths from the top horse, and the top horse was Code of Honor, and that's the horse that we expect him to be vying for favoritism on Saturday in the Florida Derby. Now, Hidden Scroll, he draws the rail. Like I said, the 5-2 favorite, attractive son of Hard Spun. I think he will go favorite off all that potential he has for Belmont. There is speed in here. I want to believe that he'll be able, as he matures and under the training of Belmont, to relax a little bit more early. But there is speed in here. There's a horse called Maximum Security who's got a lot of speed. There's a long shot named Hard Bell in here, Matt, who's got a lot of speed. So I think Hidden Scroll has things to prove. Obviously, it's only his third race, and he's yet to be a stakes winner. And this is a Grade 1 big test, last test before the Kentucky Derby. So he's got a lot to prove. Does it really come down to whether he can relax a little bit early, or can he maybe wire this field right from the rail?
Well, Brian, and in thinking about this Florida Derby, and you talked about handicapping it, for me, you really hit on a key to me, and that is when you said for Hidden Scroll, it's only his third race. And, that's what's going on this Derby trail on so many of these preps, Brian. We've got horses going into these races. They've got a maiden win. It's their third start. It's their second start. And we're asking them to do so much. And talking about Hidden Scroll, we're asking him to do so much in just his third start. No one will argue that he's a very talented horse. He's got natural speed. And now, with a very patient trainer, we're asking him to go 9 furlongs, harness his speed, potentially, and beat a good Grade 1 field. That is just asking so much and makes these races so unpredictable. I don't know if I answered your question, Brian, but I agree that I don't think in 28 days from the Fountain of Youth that as good a trainer as Bill Mott is, he's going to be able to change too much about Hidden Scroll. Jockey Joel Rosario was a big target after Hidden Scroll went out so fast in the Fountain of Youth. They've made a rider change to Javier Castellano, who can be very adept at rating horses, getting them to come off the pace. But I don't know if it's going to come down to what Javier can do. Is it going to come down to hey, Hidden Scroll's got speed. He is only going to rate so much, and he's going to go out there on the lead. And is he better than the other speed horses? I don't know what's going to happen, Brian.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard race to figure, Matt. I like your word of potentially being able to relax a little bit 28 days after the Fountain of Youth, where he did run too fast and he faded a little bit. Sure, he should improve a little bit in his third lifetime race, but I think the key to this race, and that's true in races that seem difficult to handicap on paper, is look at the odds. Look at the odds. Listen, if you ask me, is Hidden Scroll on a short list of potentially the best 3-year-olds in the country? I would say absolutely yes. He's on a pretty short list of maybe being the most talented 3-year-old in all the country, yet to be determined. But he's on that list. Is he on a short list for me of Kentucky Derby, potential Kentucky Derby winners? He's not yet. He's not. And in here, looking at the Florida Derby, if you're telling me he's the favorite in this field, I really don't want him. The rail, I think, almost forces the hand just a little bit, where, if they wanted to sit third a little bit off the speed, it becomes a little tougher from the rail. Maybe it'll set up perfect and it'll be able to sit catbird seat in third from the rail. But I think it does force their hand to show a little more speed, maybe than they even want to. And the horse probably is going to want to do that anyway. So I'm going to try to beat the favorite in here. I'm going to talk more about the odds, but let's talk about Code of Honor a little bit, Matt. He's got a little bit more experience. He ran a very good Champagne in the second race of his life off a debut win. Missed the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, unfortunately, but has come back with some interesting races this year. Interesting in that in the Mucho Macho Man first race of the year, he was pretty disappointing, as he was really a non-threatening fourth that day. But then he came back and really hit his targets in the Fountain of Youth, where he was able to move at the right time, take over the race, beat off Hidden Scroll, and hold on to the wire. So Code of Honor is a legitimate threat in here to win. And like we said, with a good deal of pace, I think Code of Honor certainly could make it 2 in a row.
I agree with that. Brian. And Shug McGay, he said after that disappointing Mucho Macho Man that Code of Honor needed to be trained harder, and he did that, and he got the win in the Fountain of Youth. The skeptics of Code of Honor right now would probably say, oh, well, he's in the field already. He doesn't need to be cranked up. So maybe Code of Honor is not going to fire his best shot in here. That kind of suppositional stuff makes handicapping even harder. My feeling is that I'm going to stick with what Shug said before, and that Code of Honor, the key was training him hard. I don't think he's going to want to back off on Code of Honor in here. He didn't do that in 2013 with Orb. When Orb won the Fountain of Youth, he trained him right back up. He took the Florida Derby and went right on to win the Kentucky Derby. And I see Shug continuing that kind of tactic in here. I think Code of Honor is going to be on his game. Like you said, Brian, he's going to be he's going to get the right setup in here. I'm interested to see what his price is going to be, because I like him in this race.
Okay, so most likely winner of the race, I think Matt and I are in agreement. I think it is Code of Honor. I think he'll be a pretty clear second choice, though. I think he won't be far behind Hidden Scroll, as I said. And what you're saying, if he needs to be trained a little bit harder, and that was the issue in the Mucho Macho Man, and it worked in the Fountain of Youth, it makes absolutely zero sense to me that he wouldn't be cranked up pretty darn well for this Florida Derby. He doesn't want to have a step back going to the Kentucky Derby. He wants to keep the train rolling and moving forward. So everything that's come out of the Shug McGahee barn and onlookers down there Gulfstream is positive on Code of Honor. Obviously, he's got a big shot. Now, the third choice in here, Matt, was the horse that was running fast at the end behind Code of Honor in the Fountain of Youth. So Code of Honor won the Fountain Youth. Hidden Scroll faded to fourth. Vacoma just barely got third, but it was Bourbon War, the beautifully bred son of Tappet and My Conquistador for trainer Mark Hennig. Bourbon Lane Stable has this horse doing really well in Florida so far this winter. Remember, before that good effort in the Fountain Youth, he won a pretty easy allowance race. And as it turns out, the horse that ran second behind him, more than 2 lengths behind him in that allowance race, Matt, was Cutting Humor. Cutting Humor, of course, as we'll talk about a little bit, won the Sunland Park Oaks on Sunday. Sunland Park Derby, excuse me. He's not eligible for the Oaks, Matt. Sunland Park Derby winner, Cutting Humor. So Bourbon War, you got to like his 2 races. He was certainly later to the party in the Fountain of Youth, but and that party was collapsing in front of him. But an impressive stretch run. You got to give Bourbon War a shot here. I think he's the 3rd choice, as the morning line says.
I can't disagree with you at all, Brian. I think he's going to be the clear 3rd choice in here. Like you said, he made a really strong run in there, and we'll see how it plays out in this Florida Derby. Remember what happened in the Fountain of Youth? Code of Honor made the first move, and that turned out to be key in there. Country House made Bourbon War made a much later move and was rallying strongly, but couldn't get Code of Honor. Is that same scenario going to play out here? A concern that I have in here, and the reason I kind of let Country House's name slip out there, because I'm concerned that we could see something similar with Bourbon War in here as happened with Country House last weekend, where they didn't want that horse to get too far behind. And I'm a little concerned that may play out here, that they're not going to want Bourbon War to get as far behind as he did the last time, and they may prompt him a little closer to the pace. And he's a big 1-move horse, and sometimes that extra ask, get close, and then make another move, kind of backfires. So again, it's an interesting scenario about what the dynamics are going to be in here.
Yeah, Bourbon War, it's easy to like Bourbon War in his 2 races at Gulfstream Park, but I agree with you, Matt. Often you see horses that try to stay closer to the pace because they were too far back and couldn't get up the previous time. They don't do as well when they try to stay closer to the pace. Certainly Country House in the Louisiana Derby is a good example of that. I don't like Bourbon War quite as much as Code of Honor. I think the odds are going to reflect my feelings on the 2, but I certainly could see Bourbon War picking up the pieces again and running another big race. 9 furlongs shouldn't hurt him at all. Now, Matt, I want to get back into those odds because I think they really did make sense for me as far as Bourbon War, 3rd choice behind Code of Honor, behind Hidden Scroll. But then I see the 4th and 5th choices in here, and I had to scratch my head a little bit. And maybe they're right. Maybe Maximum Security 9-2 seems awfully low for him, but maybe people are going to see that 3-for-3 record in claiming company, mind you. He hasn't run against horses that haven't been claimers yet in his 3 races, but he's absolutely sizzled in those 3 sprints. He's going to bring speed to the party. We know that, but 9-2 to win the race, it doesn't really make a heck of a lot of sense for me as a bettor. And then I look past him and I see Harvey Wallbanger. Harvey Wallbanger is a horse for Kenny McPeak who has run every race well. He's rallied every time. He's been 1st or 2nd in all 5 races. Sure, we're talking a lesser competition last year as a 2-year-old, but he ran some tough races against some good 2-year-olds, got a lot of experience. His only race this year, he rallied up nicely to win the Holy Bull. Maybe the Holy Bull wasn't what the Fountain of Youth was as far as class, but it was a nice win. And 9 furlongs, he got some time off. He's working well. 15-1. If this race is a little perplexing or a little wide open, and I see Harvey Wallbanger at 15-1 with a good race setup going 9 furlongs in the Florida Derby, he becomes my top play in here, Matt.
Yeah, Brian, it's interesting that in my Florida Derby preview article at Horse Racing Nation, I wrote almost the exact same thing that you said, Brian, about Harvey Wallbanger. I said that it's really easy to dismiss Harvey Wallbanger's victory in the Holy Bull by saying, oh, he got a perfect setup and all of those things. But I went on to say, but go ahead and look at his past performances. Horse has never run a bad race, Brian. He took a while to break his maiden, 2nd place finishes, but he's never run a bad race. You want to dismiss the pace setup in Holy Bull? he's going to get the same good pace set up that Cone of Honor and Bourbon Moore are going to get in here also. And like you said, 15-1 are some nice odds. I also like another 15-1 in here. Hey, the Todd Pletcher barn is heating up right now on the Derby trail. Everybody had dismissed Pletcher. Hey, Pletcher's not going to be in the Derby this year. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Well, last weekend that changed, and he's got 2 in the Derby last weekend. He sends out Current here, who is 15-1 on the morning line. Most of his races have been on the turf. He's got some big wins on the turf. His one race on the dirt was on a very wet and sloppy track at Churchill Downs. So we can give him another shot in here, and the odds are going to be there for a horse to take a stab on. So Current is another one that's going to have some good odds.
Yeah, I looked at Current and I marked him as a horse, a possibility type of horse. I don't know. I think this isn't one that's high on Pletcher's list of Derby hopes, hence that he's starting dirt so late in the year. And maybe he wasn't as good at turf horses, War of Will, per se. One race on dirt was bad, but as you said, it was slop. So, yeah, he's got dirt breeding, a possibility. But if he's anywhere near Harvey Wallbanger's odds, and I guess they're about the same on the morning line, I really like Harvey Wallbanger quite a bit. Another horse I marked off as a possibility as a big bomb, I guess we're talking 50-1, would be Union's Destiny, who tried the Fountain of Youth last time, I believe it was, and really didn't have a good trip into the first turn. Finished up pretty well in that race. Maybe he can move forward as just a bomb to get into the exotics. But like I said, Code of Honor, most likely winner. But at the odds, I really do like Harvey Wallbanger. If he's 12-1 or more, Harvey Wallbanger's the horse I want to play in the Florida Derby.
Sounds like a good plan, Brian.
And Matt, I'm just going to mention real quick on the card, there's several other stakes, but the Gulfstream Park Oaks, if we're looking forward to the Kentucky Oaks, there's a couple fillies in here. Point of Honor is the daughter of Curlin for George Weaver. She's been really good in both of her starts, moving up in class. Dunbar Road, a son of daughter of Quality Road for Chad Brown. Very impressive in her only start. Cookie Dough is a really nice proven speed horse. So it'll be interesting to see what Dunbar Road and even more for me, Point of Honor, what they can do in that Gulfstream Park Oaks against a proven horse like Cookie Dough. We might be looking at some real contenders for the Kentucky Oaks down the road in that one. Hey, Matt, let's change continents, if you will, though. We're going to go from the Florida Derby all the way out to Dubai Meydan Racecourse. Of course, their rich day of racing is Saturday. It's Saturday evening out there. Here, it'll be a little bit earlier in the day. And the headliner, of course, is the $12 million Dubai World Cup. Matt, I'm going to give you a little bit of Dubai World Cup history you probably already knew. No horse has ever repeated in the Dubai World Cup. There's been horses who've tried, but no winner has ever come back and won again. No horse has ever won the Dubai World Cup twice. That's exactly what Thunder Snow will be looking to do Saturday at Dubai.
Yeah, Brian, and that's quite a history in there. There are horses that have run multiple years in a row, and done the other thing, not won the time before and come back and gotten a victory. But Thunder Road uncorked a huge victory at Meydan last year on a track that appeared to be pretty speed favoring. He's coming into the race on a similar kind of pattern with a non-win in one of the Meydan prep races for the World Cup. So he's coming in with the same kind of preparation in there. It is no doubt, Brian, a race that has lots and lots of early speed in it.
Yeah, last year the speed didn't quite materialize as it could have been, and that really did help Thunder Snow do what he did last year. It was an impressive win. And listen, Thunder Snow's run a lot of good races, including last fall in the Jockey Club Gold Cup and the Breeders' Cup Classic. Certainly a big threat to win the race. He's had 7 races at Meydan in his life, and he's been first or second every time with 4 wins. But it really is a tale of kind of 2 races here. I see the main international threats, they're all speed. Thunder Snow, the horse that really whomped him last time, Thunder Snow needed the race, but Capizano really took it to him last time. He's speed. He's won 3 in a row at Meydan. coming off that big prep win over Thunder Snow. And then North America, the horse who never got near the lead last year, he's 7 of 11 at Meydan, but he is also speed. He's coming off a couple nice wins at Meydan. So you got those international horses that could win the race, but they're all speedy. Mile and a quarter at Dubai, I don't think we're going to get a crazy pace by any means, but those three could make it tough on each other. And then you got all the Americans coming over, at least the best of the Americans. And in my mind, that would include Gunavera, Yoshida, Audible, and Seeking the Soul. And they want to all rally. Some years that's tough to do at Dubai, but maybe this is a year where it does set up a little bit for the ralliers, Matt. And you know, the international horses could get out there and dominate, but I'm going to side with the home team a little bit here. I'm hoping the international horses fight a little bit, and it sets it up for at least one American horse to run big. Of them, I do like the horses from the Woodward best, Yoshida and Gunavera. I think they're the most consistent ralliers, at least at the distance. Yoshida's run 2 big races on dirt in his only 2 races. The turf prep on a wet turf course down in the Pegasus turf, rich prep, probably just got him a little tightened for this one. So I think he's got a good shot. And Gunavera, I kind of draw a line through that sloppy Pegasus.
Yeah, Brian, and if you know, racing fans have been wondering where all of the good American older horses are, because the it's been pretty slim pickings at the beginning of the year in that division here. This is the reason why we got basically, you know, the 3 or 4 top candidates have been prepping for the Dubai World Cup in Gunavera, in Audible, Seeking the Soul, Yoshida. You can throw Pavel in there. Also, they're over here vying for the $12 million. And you know, I hate to say it and look ahead, after this race, we probably won't see them over here again for another 2 or 3 months over in our country. So sure, I'm rooting for our American horses, but I sure wish we didn't miss them for 5 months because of the Dubai World Cup.
Yeah, fair enough, Matt. And you know, in Yoshida and Audible and Gunavera and Seeking the Soul, I think we have a bunch of good ralliers. But let's face it, they're not the great horses that we've seen in the past with Gunrunner and Arrogate that have gone over there recently and won, California Chrome. But they're good ralliers. They're mile and a quarter horses. That's kind of why I like Gunavera and Yoshida a little bit more. I think they're more of a mile and a quarter horse than, say, Seeking the Soul, who might be the second choice off his second in the Pegasus World Cup. Audible, I'm not sure I trust completely yet. His last 2 were on wet tracks, but he could pop up. Pavel's proven to me that he's just not quite good enough. Gronkowski, Axelrod are 2 other horses that have had local preps over there or moved over there, and not sure they're quite as good. But my point was, I think there's a lot of older Americans that might be the best older dirt American horse, and I'm not sure it's one of these 4. It could be McKinsey, it could be Gift Box, it could be Vino Rosso, it could be a few others. We'll wait and see. But this group is good enough, I think, to win if there's a legitimate pace. So I'm with Yoshida and Gunavera in there, and we'll see what happens. Matt, do you have a top pick in there?
Clearly, Brian, I'm going to need some odds on one of these American horses because all of them individually, I don't have a great deal of confidence in. Yoshida, to me, is a little bit of a mystery horse in that it's hard to know when he's going to fire that big shot, because when he fires that big shot, he is awfully good, but when it's going to come, I have no way of knowing that. I feel the same way about Gunavera. Again, you've heard me say it before. It's been a long time between trips to the winner's circle for him. But again, he looks great over there. He's going to get to set up. Why not this time? I feel that way. I guess I'm down to those 2. I'm Seeking the Soul. I put a little bit behind those 2. Audible, it's hard to trust at this point. So I guess it's going to depend on odds. But I would want, you know, a good 6-1, 8-1, at least on both of them to take a shot.
Yeah, fair enough, Matt. I guess we do recognize Thunder Snow, the defending champion, as the horse to beat. Capizano and North America are threats. But yeah, morning line. If the morning line's right, we'll get some pretty good odds on Gunnevera, who ran a big race last time he was at 10 furlongs on a fast track in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Yoshida, who's only had 2 dirt races and certainly fired both of his times. So Dubai World Cup Saturday. One more race I want to mention from Maidan on Saturday. There's a lot of good races. Almond Eye, everybody's going to look at the Japanese mare. She's a mare now. She was 3 last year. She was something else in Japan, and they're going to do some big things with her this year. She gets her first real international test there on the turf. But the race, as an American, the race I want to focus on a little bit more is the Golden Shaheen, the sprint. Mind Your Biscuits, of course, has had big success over there. He's retired now, and he's over in Japan, Matt, I believe, right? But we have 4 of our very best sprinters in America. These are veteran sprinters, good, graded stakes, proven sprinters over there. Roy H., XY Jet, Imperial Hint, and Promises Fulfilled. They're all over in the Golden Shaheen.
Yeah, they certainly are. We've got the cream of the American sprinters in there, and we've got one of those kind of handicapping races where we've got speed. XY Jet, Brian, is there any speedier speed than XY Jet? I don't think so. We know what XY Jet is going to do. He's going to go to the lead, but Promises Fulfilled also likes speed. Has speed also. It sure seems to point to the fact that Roy H., the confirmed closer, the Breeders' Cup champion, the Eclipse Award champion, is going to get a good pace set up, but he drew the rail.
Yeah, it's interesting. Roy H. has exactly the same pattern of races, the same finishes coming in as he did last year. He broke a little bit tardy, and he could never get to XY Jet. Mind Your Biscuits, of course, blew by them late. But last year, XY Jet just missed, and Roy H. was third. It's possible it happens again. I think there's even more speed in there. You mentioned Promises Fulfilled. He became a really, really top-notch 3-year-old sprinter the second half of last year. He faded just a little bit in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but nothing poor in his performance there. He's been freshened for trainer Dale Romans, and I think he's an interesting horse. The other horses are all 6 and 7 we're talking about. Promises Fulfilled might still have better in front of him as a newly turned 4-year-old. Real interesting race. Roy H. is going to get all the money because Imperial Hint's prep was not good. Of course, he ran second and third to Roy H. in the last 2 Breeders' Cups. XY Jet, I think, will have some odds. Maybe he's the second choice in here. Drafted is the local horse who's kind of been hot, winning with 3 wins and a second in his 4 races this year and winning the prep there. But you might get some real decent odds if you think Imperial Hint or Promises Fulfilled can do it. But a really nice sprint race with a lot of top American sprinters. So it should be fun on the Dubai World Cup undercard, Matt. Hey, big show already, but let's talk a little bit about what happened last week. Let's start at the fairgrounds. I want to mention a few, if I may, Matt, a few of the undercard races first. Bricks and Mortar, I guess he's thrown his hat in the ring as the best American turf horse in the country. Big win in the Pegasus Turf, and then he came back, and a long shot speed horse was out there, and he looked him in the eye, and he got there late in the Muniz Memorial.
Yeah, he sure did. He beat a Mike Maker horse in there that seemed on paper to be a notch below the top turf horses in there, and the other graded stakes winning horses did not really show up down the stretch, and it turned out to be a bit of a ding dong battle between Bricks and Mortar and Mark It Off, who had gotten loose on the lead, and Bricks and Mortar did prevail in there, and it was a fast race that earned good speed figures.
Yeah, he's 7 of 9 lifetime, Matt. Never been out of the money. Of course, we didn't see him for more than a year, but now Chad Brown has him going, and maybe he's an American turf horse that we can get excited about. It's been a few years since we can say that. Also on the card, Serengeti Empress really dropped out of the Fairground Oaks, and it was worrisome how badly she dropped out. Of course, we found out after the race that she bled. Hopefully, they'll have everything turned around because I still consider her a Kentucky Oaks threat. Meanwhile, the winner of the race again was Larry Jones, who's won the race a few times in the last 10 years or so, and he did it with Street Band. I still think Serengeti Empress is the best horse coming out of that race, though.
Yeah, and you could tell pretty quickly into the race that there was something going on with Serengeti Empress because she was not able to go on and get that lead and head out, and it happens. I saw some comments on Twitter. How does a horse bleed when they're on Lasix? Well, it's like any other medication where there are different dosage levels, and she was on a low dosage of Lasix, and it didn't stop her from bleeding, but they'll treat her in all the ways that they do, and probably increase the Lasix a little bit, and Tom Amoss will have her back.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to the big one on that day. That was the Louisiana Derby. Country House, we've talked about a little bit. I was high on him, and it's hard to be high on him after this race. He, of course, you said he was closer to the pace. He made a nice move on the turn, looked good straightening out, and then just really came up empty to be fourth. Sueno was uncharacteristically on the lead early and really didn't threaten down the stretch at all. He was third. Spinoff, who we talked a lot about, ran a very good race, and he was second. But the winner, Matt, by my standards, coming out of a maiden win, over 20-1 here. What'd you think of him?
Yeah, I mean, I think both Spinoff and by my standards were prominently placed in the race, and were able to stay out there and battle for the win. With War of Will having that unusual break, a few strides out of the gate where his back legs kind of went out from underneath him, and a very, very, very strange thing that I don't ever recall seeing. Basically, eliminated any chance for War of Will in there. Marcassi said he's doing better. We'll have to see. As you mentioned, Brian, with only 5 weeks until the Derby, there isn't much time when anything, no matter how minor, goes wrong in there. So that was disappointing for me that happened to War of Will in there. I'm not thrilled about the top two finishers as potential Kentucky Derby winners, and I'm not ready to eliminate Country House as one of those 3-year-olds that we were talking about that has talent, but at this point is very, very lightly raced and has stuff to figure out. I think they, to try and keep him on a straight path, they put him to work early to get his mind on things, and they had a different bit, and he ran well in that middle move, but then came up a little empty. That's a horse that just has to learn how to put all the pieces together, and I think that'll happen come summer, late summer, fall.
Okay. I'm going to agree with just about everything you said there. I still think Country House deserves a shot in the Kentucky Derby, and as a bomb, I think he will be on my tickets because I liked him a lot, and he didn't fire his best race in the Louisiana Derby. Maybe he's not good enough. Maybe he's not good enough yet, but I still think 1.25 miles. Who knows? By my standards, he obviously was progressing in those maiden races, but I'm with you. I'm not high on him. You probably get 20-something to 1 again in the Kentucky Derby, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to jump on the Golden Sense, Son of Golden Sense for Brett Calhoun just yet. Spinoff ran a good race, obviously a talented horse, but again, Kentucky Derby, not one of my top 8 or so. Either of them are. And War of Will, yeah, that was a strange action. You said he lost action in his back legs, and originally Cassie said he's certainly off after the race, or quite a bit off after the race. The next morning, he seemed to be doing better. They're still talking Kentucky Derby, but that's worrisome. I am a little dubious that he'll be 100% in 5 weeks for the Kentucky Derby. So we'll have to see. I'm guessing the Louisiana Derby. I'm much less on the Louisiana Derby producing a Kentucky Derby winner than I was last week at this time. Sunland Park, I'm actually a little bit more high on a potential Kentucky Derby winner out of there than I am in Louisiana. And that's not because of the winner. The winner was good, Cutting Humor. Sixth race, he moved forward after fading a little bit at Oaklawn, moved forward and ran a pretty darn fast race there and was a winner. But on the other hand, another twist of fate, Matt. I wanted to see if he could relax a little bit, and I wanted to see if he could handle dirt. And despite running second in here, both of those were answered for me, and I think he becomes a very interesting horse moving forward.
Yeah, that's certainly true, and I think at the top of the stretch, it looked like another twist of fate was not going to be a factor in there. But then he kicked it in and made a nice rally in there, showing that he can rate off the pace a little bit, and showing that he was comfortable on the dirt track. So it was the kind of performance that his trainer was looking for, I think, in his return to dirt racing.
Yeah, so Cutting Humor, maybe a similar feeling for me as the Louisiana Derby horse. Is a nice horse. He proved that he can move forward a little bit, but not really a Derby horse for me. Another twist of fate was part of the fast pace with Mucho Gusto, who was the clear favorite and faded out of it after that fast pace. Then he was kind of pulled back in between horses while on that lead, and then he really was running down the lane. I like the fact that, I probably would have went back to Golden Gate Fields. That's where he's trained by Blaine Wright. But he's actually staying at Sunland Park because of an issue up there with the herpes virus. So the fact that he's training at Sunland Park, I even think maybe is a positive too, because he trains over dirt, trains in that thinner air where he might get that 1.25 mile oxygen going for the Kentucky Derby. He becomes an interesting horse for me out of that Sunland Derby. Now, we should mention one more race on that card, though, because American Pharoah's little sister, his half-sister, Chasing Yesterday, she is now 5 of 6 lifetime with 4 wins. Matt, what did you think of her winning in the Sunland Oaks?
Well, she kept it going, got another win in there. But, Brian, wow, that race came back very, very, very slow. So, keeping that in mind, it was an easy victory for her. She really wasn't threatened at any point. The last 100 yards or so, they had her geared down. It wasn't a wow performance in there, but she's moving on.
Yeah, and I liked it, I think, more than most. And folks, you're going to look at the time, 1:43 and change for a 1/16. Why is Matt calling that so slow? Comparatively, the track was fast comparative to the other races, including obviously the Sunland Park Derby, which was a very fast 1 1/8. 1:43 and change is slow. I will say that she didn't break great. I will say that she was wide all the way around. She lost all kinds of ground, and she did plenty to win the race. She wasn't drawing off late, but she had already won the race in the stretch. I think she moves forward. It was her first race in 3 months, and I consider her still one of the top Kentucky Oaks preps. Don't let the speed figures from this race have you get off of Chasing Yesterday as a real threat in the Kentucky Oaks. Folks, that's our show. I want to thank you again, as always. Matt and I sure do appreciate you tuning in every week. And we know we have a lot of new viewers, so welcome as we move closer to the Kentucky Derby here. If you haven't yet done it, please do subscribe. Hit that red button there to subscribe to the Horse Racing Nation channel here on YouTube. And Matt, I want to thank our sponsor as well, the best contest site out there. That's Derby Wars. Can I get a parting shot from you, my friend?
Yeah, with the calendar turning quickly on the way to the Kentucky Derby, each weekend's going to be big. So stay with HorseCenter as we finish up the Derby preps, and then start talking about the big race itself. And as always, I want to thank our producer Brett Workman for putting together the show.
Thanks to Brett. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week right back here on HorseCenter.